I think, man, it's funny. I think the true measure of wealth is happiness, right? Like I really do, and that's not saying that I'm against money. I'm not against that at all, because you gotta work hard, make your money to take care of your family, and be able to bless people. But I think it's a lot of people with so-called wealth, and they don't have joy and they don't have happiness, right? And I feel like joy, happiness, and peace is the most important things we can possess, right? And for most people, the material possessions they feel are the most important. For me, when you got joy, when you got peace, when you got happiness, I think that's true wealth, because you can't put a price on that. Like for me, people can't understand. A guy asked me just yesterday, what do you think about stem cell? Why don't you go over to London or one of these places somewhere and try to get stem cell for your arm? And I was like, I got peace. And he's like, what does that mean? I was like, I'm good with my situation, right? Like I'm wealthy because of that. I got something that you can't put a price on, right? You can't price out my joy. You can't price out my happiness. You can't price out my peace. Now, if I measure wealth by money, money is a number. Numbers never end, right? So you never catch it. Numbers never stop. If your happiness is predicated upon a number, if you're being wealthy is predicated upon a number, you'll get it. Then it's like, okay, I gotta set it a little bit higher. The number will never end. And so therefore, you'll never be wealthy enough. If I get to the end of my life, and I'm an old guy at the time, and I'm sitting back in a rocking chair on my porch with my wife, and got a head full of gray hair, and our kids come up, and we're just chilling out, and I've accomplished a lot, and my wife is sitting there, and my son and my daughter comes up, and they say to me, like, Dad, man, you accomplished a lot. Like, you're a great player. You've done well speaking, but we feel like you're a terrible father, right? Like, what would it be worth for me to accomplish, gain, give them certain things, and suck as a father, right? My wife got me aside and said, hey man, you've done really well in speaking and like your athletic ability, but you're a terrible husband. What would it be worth? Right? And so for me, I feel like the greatest gift I could ever give to my children is showing them that I honor, love, respect, and admire their mother. Right? The greatest thing that I could ever give to my children also is not something that I can give to them. It's the things that I will leave in them. The principles, the values, the guide, how you treat people, how you live your life, how you make decisions and choices. And so family is something that's very important to me, right? To be honest, I don't think a person, you know how a lot of times we consider someone to be great, right? So that guy's great, right? Like for me, the true measure of greatness is if you can reproduce it in your family, like with your children, right? If one day your children come up and they're great, not great in athletic ability, no, great people, right? Like when they come up, like we saw a young man yesterday, and I went to speak at a school, right? And I was just talking to some kids, basically because a young man reached out, had the courage to reach out and ask me, could I come and talk to his junior class? And I was like, no problem, man, I'll do it for you. And after I met him, his parents came, and I said, man, his dad and his mother gotta be proud, right? Because he's a great young man. To me, that speaks volumes of the parents that they are. And so for me, that's what I want somebody to say about my son, my daughter, and my family one day. Man, it's so tough, because I remember when I was young and I didn't have my father, right, in the household. And we became cool. And I remember I used to live my life and I had like, it was like a resentment toward him, right? Because I couldn't understand why he wasn't there early on. Like I just couldn't understand it, right? And like when I would be home and we would experience certain things, and me and my cousins would be asleep on the floor, right? And there were certain questions and things at times that I wanted to ask my father, and because he wasn't in the household, I couldn't ask him. So it created a resentment until one day I just asked. We were together and, I just asked, like, man, what happened? And he just shared with me what happened, right? Like, I was young, your mother was young, right? I ended up losing my mother, right? And I was just scared, right? And when he told me this situation, I could understand it, right? And for most people, it's like forgiveness is the hardest thing in the world. And when you see a son, when you see him coming up with his mother, or you see a father that's not present, a lot of times for me, I think now, man, what's that situation? And I want to understand it, right? Because I firmly believe, as tough as the situation is, my teacher said this to me. My teacher, who's my mentor, my 8th grade teacher. He said to me one day when I was in the 8th grade, because we was talking about fatherhood and stuff like that, and some of my friends, they were talking about their fathers. We were just having a man conversation. And one of my friends said, like, man, my father don't care about me. Or he don't want me, right? Like, I'm in the world, I don't see him, right? And my teacher said to him, son, I don't think any man brings a kid into this world and don't think about him and don't love him and don't want him. And the kid was like, no, man, like, that's wrong, right? And he was like, I'm a man, I'm a father, I'm a husband, right? And when he said it, at the time I was young and I was like, I don't know. But now that I'm a father, right? I got 2 kids, or I got 3 little sisters, right? And it's this thing inside of me that makes me think like it was true. It was real. But situations and circumstances happen sometimes that we can't understand, and it leaves a mother in the household, or sometimes it leaves a father to be a single father, right? And when that happens, I think the village is important. It's like me, I got a level of accountability and responsibility with my son, right? If my son plays on a team, right, and his kids on that team, that their fathers are not present, I feel like I have a responsibility and obligation not to be their father, right, but to fill a void, to be a positive male figure in that kid's life as much as possible, and not just look at the kid and see him drowning and just be like, that's not my kid, I'll just let him drown, right? No, he's very much so my kid, right? Because God has put me here to be present in this kid's presence, so I'm gonna help him, right? And so it's just becoming a village around that mother or around that father to assist as much as possible to help that kid be shaped and molded in the right way with principles.